and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Ridley, and this is my kitchen, how I found it. We are going to be continuing our journey with Israel and Palestine today with a traditional dish from the city of Nabulsi called Kanafeh Nabulsi. And so this is a really interesting dish. I am most familiar with one of the ingredients, which is this one right here, called Kanafeh. And so this is shredded phyllo dough, and if you've ever seen those Dubai chocolates that's been going around, this is one of the main ingredients in that alongside pistachio cream. So this is, like I was saying, phyllo dough that's been shredded nice and thin. And this dish itself is kind of like a pastry meets savory meets sweet. It's got cheese and butter, and it's a baked dish, but it's very simple to put together, but promises to be super, super tasty. So, as far as it goes, what we've got is, like I said, we've got our Kanafeh pastry, and that's going to be used in a dish like this, just to sort of fill out the outside of everything. The center of this is going to be a mixture of cheeses. And so here I've got two different kinds. One is called akawi, and the other one is actually Nabulsi cheese. And the traditional version of this uses a really specific type of Nabulsi cheese called mashmula, which I wasn't able to get a hold of, but I found a bunch of different varieties that use either just Nabulsi or just akawi, and a lot of them, if you have trouble finding these specialty cheeses, have recommendations for using mozzarella, ricotta, and a mixture of other more readily available cheeses, at least for the market that I'm in. Now, the majority of work for this particular dish actually happens in advance, and it's not super labor intensive, but it is time intensive. If you are using these cheeses, they come in a brine solution, which is super, super salty, and so you need to de-salt them over time. It takes about 8 hours of sitting in fresh water and then draining that water every hour to pull the salt out of the cheese. I spoke to a gentleman at the market where I was able to get these, and he actually recommended another type of cheese, which is called sweet cheese. I'm not going to be using this one today because I wanted to try the more traditional approach, but this one theoretically doesn't have that saltiness, and you can use it directly in the kanafeh as a substitute as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can make this dish come to life without having to do a lot of crazy searching for the right ingredients. But we're going to be putting that cheese inside a pastry filling with the Kanafeh dough, and then we're going to be putting a simple syrup over it, which is this right here. And so the sugar syrup is just an equal mixture of sugar and water that's been cooked down for a few minutes. And then at the very end, you can add a little bit of rose water or orange blossom water and add kind of a fragrant component. You can also get syrups like this pre-made, but I just made one real quick because I had orange blossom water on hand. The last thing that goes into this is red food coloring. And this is a powder red food coloring. I haven't tried it before, and from my understanding, it doesn't do anything aside from add to the visual appeal of the dish itself. So I don't think that it's necessary, but because I had some, we're gonna be trying it out. Now, as far as the prep of this goes, like I said, I spent almost all of the time on this dish desalting the cheese, and then I also melted some butter here and removed the milk solids, just ran it through a cheesecloth, and you can use ghee or clarified butter that you bought at the store just as easily. In fact, probably more easily. For the dough itself, all we need to do is take this long strands of the Kanafeh, and we're gonna chop it up into kind of a coarse mixture so that we can easily spread it throughout the pan. So we'll pull that out, and we'll just go through this with some basic cuts. You could also run this through a food processor if you've got one on hand, but I wanted to try and do something a little more standard on this one, and if you don't need to use the food processor, I think this should be just as effective and work just as well. And seeing as it came in this nice, lovely little preset container where it's already in the long strands, I can go across, and we get this really nice sort of coarse mixture of the Kanafeh strands. So you don't want them to be too long, and you want sort of a coarse mixture of them, but it looks like that chopping did a fairly good job of separating them out, and it's got kind of a fluffy texture to it now. All right, so that is pretty much all of our cutting for this entire dish. All we need to do now is add a little bit of our clarified butter to the bottom of this baking pan. I'm using a 12-inch cake pan here, about a 1/4 cup, I would say. We're going to take that little pinch of red food coloring, add it to the clarified butter, and then just mix this all the way around the bottom of the dish, trying to get the food coloring mixed all the way throughout, but also making sure that we've got a really good layer of clarified butter along the bottom. I'm going to make sure I've got all of that in here. I am not seeing too much of the effect of the red food coloring. I am going to go grab a tiny bit more and add just a little pinch more. Again, I'm not super familiar with this type of food coloring before, so it's always a little bit of an experiment. Okay, and now it's sort of turning a light orangey color, which does match up with what I think we're looking for. So we've got that all the way mixed in. We will take about half of our Kanafeh dough, and we're gonna press this all the way into the bottom of this pan and make a nice flat base for us to put our cheese filling into. So I'm gonna start by pressing that in, and then you can use really the bottom of any kind of flat device that you've got and try and press it into place, and that should mix in a little bit with the clarified butter that's already down there and give us a nice place to build our filling on. All right, and it does take just a second or so before that butter is really starting to mix in with the dough. So give it a quick second because it'll be really fluffy to begin with. Then we have our desalted cheese, and I just drained out the water that I've had it been sitting in, and we're going to kind of crumble this in and make an even layer across the entire dish. And there's a tiny bit of the red food coloring that was still on my hands, so some of these are even turning a tiny bit orange. Okay. Now, from my understanding, what we're really wanting from this cheese, especially having tried it with the salt removed, because a lot of the flavor of that salty brine that they were in got pulled out by that desalination process. And so what we want from this is texturally a really stretchy cheese with great feel and texture in the middle of the dish. I will also say that I tried a little bit of the desalted cheese after I drained it, and it has a really interesting texture that I probably would not enjoy by itself anymore, whereas in the brine it has kind of a punchy, salty flavor to it that, while different, was definitely recognizable as cheese. So I'm interested to know how this turns out in the finished dish now that it's been desalted. And I can even feel that the texture of it has changed a little bit. It's kind of got a squeaky feel to it and a squeaky sound to it. All right, spread that out. We could probably do a little more. And I do want to try and keep at least a small area just around the outside, because when I put the second half of the dough on top of it, I'm going to want to make sure that there is an area around the outside for it to fully connect with the other dough. And speaking of, I forgot one thing, which is I need a bowl for this, because we are now going to take the rest of the clarified butter, mix it in with the rest of our Kanafeh dough, and then that is going to go over the top, and it's going to help it keep this really nice, rich, golden color throughout the entire dish while it's baking, and also add that really nice buttery flavor. So I'll finish breaking this up a little bit, maybe add a tiny bit more, and then I'll go grab a bowl so we can get our mixing done. It's a whole bunch of cheese. All right. Perfect. So we will add our shredded and sliced Kanafeh. A whole bunch of our clarified butter. I'm going to do this slower pour towards the end because, like I said, this was clarified here. There is still a little bit of the milk solids, and you can kind of keep them at the very end because they tend to settle towards the bottom. All right. And this is really soaking up all of that butter. Beautiful. So now, you can put this right over the top. Spread it into those corners. I'm trying to encase all of that cheese center inside the pastry. Should be just enough for us to fill up this cake pan. Get it sent all the way to the sides. And leave my hands entirely covered in shreds. I will say this is the first time in my life I've ever felt shredded. Okay. So, that is the prep work on our Kanafeh. So I'm going to set the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And then once that's ready, I will put this in for about 30 minutes. So I'll come back once that's fully heated and get it in the oven. And at that point, we're just about done. Because when it comes out, you just pull it out. We're gonna add a little bit of that sugar syrup over the top of it, and then you serve it exactly like that. Also with some toppings. I have some pistachios left over, I think, so we'll crumble those up and add those as well, but you can really add whatever toppings you like at the end. But this is, from my understanding, the Kanafeh ready to go in the oven. So I'm gonna go get it preheated, clean my hands up a little bit of all of the clarified butter, and then we'll be back. been 30 minutes, and I just checked the top of it. It looks nice and golden brown, so we're just gonna pull it out, invert it onto a serving tray, or plate, or platter, however you wanna serve it, and we're pretty much done. All right. So it's got a really nice golden brown top to it. And from my understanding, the reason you want to use the clarified butter here instead of, say, regular butter is that the milk solids can burn at this step. And so you want to make sure that those have been thoroughly removed so you get this really nice golden brown instead. So I'm going to try and just loosely remove the edge here. And then if all goes well, I can invert it onto this plate here. And we will have ourselves some foods. All right. Oh my goodness. That could have been better planned, but I'd say success. And that little bit of red food coloring gave us a really nice orange golden color to it. It looks pretty good. All right, so there was still quite a bit of butter, so some spilled out onto the table. I'm gonna go and do a quick wipe down of this, but that right there is our kanafeh. At this point, the only thing left, I guess I can do that while I'm here, because I want to do it while it's nice and warm, but you want the syrup to be cool, is I'm just gonna pour a little bit of this syrup all over the dish, trying to get a nice even distribution if I can. At this point, I'm not gonna be using most of this syrup, because you want to make sure that you have some left available to be able to sweeten the individual slices to the taste of the person who's going to be eating them. But this should soak up into the dish and add a really delicious sweet element to that cheese and pastry combo, along with the butter. And I'm going to say that's all right for now. So here is our kanafeh. I have some cleanup to do, and then I'm gonna slice a couple of slices out, and we'll get some tasting done. We have our sliced kanafeh ready. I added just a little bit of crushed pistachios to the top, and then we do have our little bit of extra syrup, so you can sweeten it to your level of desired sweetness.
All right.
What we should be expecting here is gooey, stretchy cheese in the middle of crunchy pastry with a little bit of the pistachio to add sort of a textural addition to it.
Let's dive right in then. Gotta slice it with the spoon first. There you go.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, obviously, it's super creamy.
Very.
And yeah, there's this subtle, savory flavor that comes through from the cheese.
Which is weird because before this, when it was in its dry, saltless form, it was...
It kind of felt like the flavor had left it.
Yeah, like it was gone. But we've put some back in, I guess with the sugar.
I'm not sure, because it's definitely
and the butter.
Savory. Maybe it's more of the butter element.
Yeah.
And
or maybe that's just what happens when you mix this cheese with sugar. It just brings back kind of like salt, but not at all.
And it's definitely super gooey.
Yes.
Yeah, if you don't cut it, this would stretch for ages.
This is really good.
The slight floral tone of the orange blossom water in the syrup
I am getting a little bit of that, yeah.
is like in the background, adding this brightness to it.
This is a fascinating dish. Because, I mean, it was super simple. It's just the dough, cheese, some butter, and
Syrup.
syrup.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And it came together really quickly. And if you were to use the sweet cheese that I was recommended, instead of doing this whole desalting process, you could have this whole thing done start to finish in 45 minutes.
Yeah, this is... Wow, this is...
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I love phyllo dough, first of all, since the baklava we had in the other episode, but this is like in a different form. But it's just as good. The dough itself is really good, and mixed with the cheese and the syrup and the butter, it's a whole different thing.
And by having it shredded like that, it holds the syrup, I think, a little bit better.
I wasn't sure I was gonna like the flakiness of the texture, but the texture is really good. Like, it didn't get so crunchy that it's not dough anymore. It just, I don't know, it works.
Now, I definitely think that this is best straight from the oven, with the cheese still gooey.
It's
and
gotta be gooey. This will be a totally different ball game if the texture wasn't just so.
Yes. So I think even with the leftovers that we may or may not have after this, reheating in the oven or however you need to
Very
get that
important step.
Yeah, very important, because the texture of all of this is spectacular.
Yes. Wow. I love this. And you know what? I don't even need it to have meat. This is just good. This is delicious. I mean, the cheese does it for me, so this is delicious, as is.
Absolutely. It's really spectacular. Yeah. Wow, you caught up and surpassed me.
Yeah. It was really good. It was really good.
So again, once again, if you get a chance to try some traditional Kanafeh, yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
But try and get somewhere where you can get a fresh piece, because straight from the oven, this is perfect.
All right. See you next time.